On September 5, 1999, Islamic militants from Chechnya invaded the Russian-controlled village of Tukhchar in Dagestan. 13 Russian soldiers posted at a border checkpoint defended against the Chechen attack until they ran out of ammunition, their communication was disrupted, and the driver of their tank was killed. They then decided to retreat to a second checkpoint where they set up a new defense. Villagers told the Russian soldiers that the Chechens were giving them half an hour to evacuate the town. The villagers brought civilian clothing and offered to help the Russians hide and leave undetected, but Senior Lieutenant Vasily Tashkin refused to retreat and set up a defense inside of a barn with 5 other soldiers. When the Chechens invaded the village, they poured gasoline on the barn and threatened to burn it if Tashkin and his men didn't surrender. The Russian soldiers eventually agreed to surrender after being promised that they would not be killed. Going against his word, however, the Chechen commander Umar Eldosultanov staged a public execution in a nearby field. One of the soldiers, Alexei Lipatov, managed to escape but was shot and killed shortly afterwards. Over the years, 5 of the Chechen militants involved in the Tukhchar massacre were brought to trial for war crimes and given prison sentences ranging from 18 years to life. The invasion of Dagestan by the Chechen militants is considered to be one of the main causes for the Second Chechen War. On August 22, 2019, 30-year-old Samuel Charles Waisbren was crushed to death by an elevator at the Manhattan Promenade Apartments in New York. The video shows a man with a backpack step out of the open elevator right before it plunges down to a lower floor. As the elevator was descending, Samuel Waisbren grabbed the door with his right hand and planted his foot on the lobby floor as he attempted to exit, but he did not make it out in time and his body was crushed between the wall and elevator. The City Medical Examiner's Office determined that Samuel Waisbren died of blunt force trauma to the neck and torso. 5 people were trapped in the elevator, but they were eventually rescued by the fire department. Tenants of the 23-story luxury apartment building located in the Kips Bay area claimed that the elevators have been malfunctioning for years. Many say that oftentimes the doors would not open properly unless you manually moved them by hand. The elevator would skip by floors and break down constantly. One man claims that he warned the management about the lift after it began wobbling erratically as he rode it down from his apartment floor. A few months prior to the fatal accident, on May 29, 2019, the Department of Buildings fined the owner $1,300 and ordered that one of the elevators be shut down after it was found that a safety feature had been disabled or tampered with. The elevator was back in operation 2 days later, but the case remained open because the apartment owner failed to pay the fine. With monthly rent for a 1-bedroom at $3,695, many feel that there is no excuse for the poor maintenance given to the building's elevator system. The Waisbren family is currently in the process of filing a wrongful death lawsuit against the building owner and the elevator company. In honor of their son, Samuel's parents set up the Samuel Waisbren Memorial Basketball Program, which helps children to read and play basketball in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where Samuel was originally from. "38-year-old Garry Hoy was working as a lawyer for the law firm of Holden Day Wilson in Toronto, Canada. Prior to going to law school, he had gotten a degree in engineering. On July 9, 1993, Hoy was giving a group of art cycling students a tour of the Toronto Dominion Centre. In the past, Hoy liked to slam himself into the windows of the building to prove the strength of the glass, and had harmlessly bounced off it. He tries it again on this day to impress the students. However, the force of Hoy's slamming forced the window from its frame, causing Hoy to fall out the window to his death. Amazingly, the glass of the window did not break, proving Hoy's point that it was strong. The incident occurred in a small conference room adjacent to a boardroom where a reception was being held for articling students. Structural engineer Bob Greer was quoted as saying, "I don't know of any building code in the world that would allow a 160-pound man to run up against a glass and withstand this." Hoy's death was a contributing factor to the eventual closing of Holden Day Wilson in 1996. At the time, it was the largest law firm closure in Canada. Hoy's bizarre death has been featured on multiple TV shows including Mythbusters and 1000 Ways to Die. It was also recreated on the Discovery investigation show Curious and Unusual Deaths. In 1996, Hoy was posthumously given the Darwin Awards. Arianna Savannah Carmack was brought into the world on October 28, 2010, in Grant County, Indiana. Her parents' names are Vanessa Marie Lloyd and Steve Carmack. On February 13, 2013, Vanessa asked her boyfriend, 27-year-old Donald Riddle, to babysit Arianna and her two siblings while she went to work. Later that night, Vanessa arrived home and went to go check on 2-year-old Arianna. However, Riddle prevented her from doing so. He said to her, "Hey, I've already done that. She's okay." Vanessa believed her boyfriend and went on with her night. At around 10 p.m., she finally checked on her dulcer and found a truly horrific sight. Arianna was found unresponsive in her bed. She wasn't breathing, and her face was so red that it looked like she was covered in blood. Vanessa screamed and called emergency services. When they arrived, they found the child in the middle of the living room floor, still unresponsive. They tried their best to save her, but she was pronounced dead at the scene. Riddle had fled the house before an ambulance arrived and was nowhere to be found. When an autopsy was performed, the coroners noticed that there were chemical burns on her body. They believe she suffered from a flash burn, which is caused by a sudden exposure to heat. Flash burn injuries are generally non-life-threatening, but in this case, officials believe that these burns were a contribution to her death. Arianna also suffered injuries to her head, chest, and back area, and had multiple bruises on her lower extremities. However, these appeared to be in the healing process. Her shirt had also caught fire and was not removed from her body in time to avoid injury. Donald Riddle was later found at a friend's house and brought into custody. During a police interrogation, Riddle admitted that he had not even checked on Arianna all night long. After Vanessa found her, Riddle pretended to call 911 and then left the house. Doctors believe that if Riddle had not wasted so long and taken Arianna to the hospital right away, she would have lived. Arianna's father, Steve, lived in the same mobile home park as Riddle and Vanessa, and he believes that if he had been able to look after his dulcer, she'd still be here today. A candlelight vigil was held outside of Steve's residence. She was just the sweetest little girl ever. I'm just hurt. Destroyed, Steve said. In May of 2014, Donald Riddle was found guilty of felony neglect of a dependent resulting in death, possession of controlled substances, and possession of marijuana. He was sentenced to 56.5 years in prison. In February of 2015, Vanessa Marie Lloyd was sentenced to 35 years, with a mandatory 25 served and 10 on probation. Superior Judge Dana Kenworthy sentenced her to 35 years for neglect, 2 years for dealing marijuana, and 2 years for maintaining a common nuisance charge. The sentences will all run concurrently. Arianna was described in her obituary as a loving and happy little girl that loved playing with her siblings and watching SpongeBob and Dora the Explorer, and that's how she should be remembered. On March 5th, 1977, during the Formula One South African Grand Prix, a tragedy occurred that killed 2 men. On the 22nd lap of the race, Italian racer Renzo Zorzi's car was experiencing problems. 2 fire marshals arrived to extinguish the flames. As they were crossing the track to get to Zorzi's vehicle, British racing driver Tom Pryce accidentally struck one of the marshals, Frederik Jansen van Vuuren, at 170 miles per hour, killing him instantly. His body was so badly damaged that he was only identified after the race director summoned all the fire marshals, and he was not among them. After Van Vuuren was hit, the 40-pound fire extinguisher that he was carrying struck Pryce in the head, killing and almost decapitating him. Pryce's car continued driving with the driver dead behind the wheel until it collided with Jacques Lafitte's Ligier, which sent them both crashing into the barriers.